Program. This is What's Your Story. My name is Catherine Mwangi. I am sitting with this incredible audience at the Nairobi Street Kitchen. Boom Jipigema Coffee. So the show has not changed. It's still an incredible story we have planned out for you tonight and maybe next week, who knows. However, I'm sitting on this side of the stage or the panel side, because today is all about hearing the voices of men. So lots of people say, oh, boy child, boy child, boy child. So we have Gen Zs and millennials and millennialish people on the set. And the person who will help me catalyze tonight's program is no stranger to this, to What's Your Story. You've seen him here a couple of times, just contributing and pouring his heart out to matters that are relevant, sometimes irrelevant, especially when it comes to relationships. So please help me welcome the founder of the Wellness Tribe, Mr. Danish Odongo. Yes, karibu sana. And he will be telling us a little bit more about why we have this gentleman here, all looking so hot. Oh my God. Yes, we keep it real over here. So he will tell us who they are, but I'm not the only female going to be contributing to this conversation. But I leave it to Danish to introduce everybody. So Danish, over to you.
Thank you so much for having me today, Catherine Mwangi. It's been such a joy to watch this show grow, and that today I'm sitting on this seat is quite incredible. Thank you for the honor, and thank you for that. Now, today we're going to have a very interesting discussion. One is dating in the 21st century, and it's the man's perspective. So before I introduce them, I'd like to hear their voices, for them to tell us their names and what they do. I'll begin on my extreme right, the gentleman wearing that nice kofia.
Okay, so silence is golden, speech is silver. I am the golden voice, God's son, Chiron Lovo. I'm a breakfast host at Kiss FM. I host the breakfast show there.
Hi, everyone. Hi. So my name is Daniel Juma. I am the country director of Global Peace Foundation in Kenya. I'm also a husband to one woman, and I'm a father to 2 kids. I'm sure they're watching. And I believe that family is everything. And I'm happy to share my experiences.
And to my right here is a gentleman who described himself as a crusty curmudgeon at heart. Tell us your name and what that means, really.
So I'm Silas Nyanchwani.
Yeah.
I'm a journalist, I'm a writer, I'm a man about town. And what is just asked what it means to be a crusty curmudgeon. I'm that old, cranky uncle of yours, eh? Yule mwenye anazusha kila mahali, like kuskumula about everything. Yeah.
Makofi kwake tafadhalini. So, and then on to my left, we have a fantastic lady who is my friend, and she'll be representing the lady's voice today. Kindly introduce yourself and what you do. Yeah.
I organize with Feminists in Kenya, which is a movement of women and queer activists, and our organization, or our organizing, revolves around, or rather intersects at ending all forms of gender-based violence or violence, whether structurally or interpersonal. And also we work so much at the digital rights. And our mantra, or our movement, is centered on community, joy, and resistance. And maybe today I am here to resist when I feel things.
A round of applause, Makofi. So is that the part where we say viva? Or what? Viva. All right. So we're going to start this conversation. Silas, I think you're being a bit modest. You are an author of a very popular book. You say in this book, on single mothers, before you marry her, know why the other ninja left.
So that's a memo in the book where I'm advising men who want to marry single mothers on the things to consider. Because the advice applies even for women who want to marry men who have children out there, so it cuts both ways.
Okay.
But the book is for men. Okay. And I was just listing a number of factors and one of the factors was like, you need to know why the other guy is out of the picture. Okay. Because if you don't know why he's out of the picture, probably she's going to leave you for the same reason. So I've been doing this stuff on Facebook, 50 memos to men.
Okay.
Just I've been having this dialogue with the men on various issues. You know, men have been going through a lot, especially after COVID came and, people were losing jobs and all that, and men were really taking a beating. Okay. So I started having this dialogue with men on social media, and then I collected all those dialogues into a book. They're called 50 Memos to Men.
Okay.
So I've done the first 2 volumes that have like from memo number 1 to 100. Okay. And now the other memos from 100 to 200 will be out in the course of the year.
It's a lot of memos to men. I hope they are reading it. Chito,
no, they are reading
it.
A lot, yeah.
So let's go to Chito. Chito, as someone who's young but also a radio host, what do you think is it like the dating scene for men in the 21st century?
Number one, it's T for tough.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of things that are changing over time.
Yeah.
When our parents used to go, when they would tell us the stories of how they would go dating, they would describe it like it was a very simple thing.
Yeah.
You meet a girl by the river, you wink at her, she winks at you, you walk away, and somehow it becomes and you appear.
Yeah. Good times. Man.
But now today, even when you are talking about approaching a lady, so I give this example sometimes. So there's a time I met a person who I thought she was beautiful. I met her, she was walking in the street when a mall set up. So I walk over to say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I think you're beautiful. I'd like to take you out for coffee. If you're not comfortable, you don't have to give me your number, but we can meet here at this time and this date. And if you're okay, we can have, and she looks at me and goes, Hapana, when nani? And it became a whole scene, which, also made me go like, yo, what's going on? But it made me realize that as much as women say they want polite men, I think it depends on which woman you're talking to. Because sometimes there are women who may be going through their own traumatic experiences, so she reacts to you how she would react to her abusive father or how she would react to her abusive ex-boyfriend. Yeah. And so I found it's a very interesting dynamic. Even if you're calling somebody to tell them come, sometimes you invite somebody for lunch, they won't want to go for lunch. They want to go for drinks. Because drinks is the language that is understood. When you say lunch or you say dinner, it has to involve some, let's just say some stimulants.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Juma, you're hearing these experiences. Are you shocked, or when you're growing up, was it easier on the men, or perhaps men have changed and become maybe different, or let's say weaker, like we are accused?
Yeah, it's kind of different from what I knew when we were dating, when we were young. And to begin with, to comment on this book, I think you need to know why. She dumped that guy, right? Yeah. Why she left? Why is it? Why he left, or why he was dumped? Because maybe or both, right? Yeah. So during our time, of course, I think we didn't have even the mobile phones like we know it today. So I remember in high school, dating was you meet someone during the outings, and you throw up that tough pickup line. So I think we had to learn the catchiest pickup line that would catch her attention and let her give you an audience. Huh? And then, of course, those days, we had, of course, letter writing. So where you would, once you meet someone, you would just send letters, and nicely written letters. And sometimes you spray that letter with the perfume, and so that when she opens it, she's, and very nice. So it was quite different from dating as we know it today. And for some of us who, of course, grew up in the village, it was not, dating today was not, dating those days was different from what you guys are going through today. Today you can easily meet someone on Facebook or on Instagram, and I hear there is also Tinder, right? Is it Tinder, right? I've never tried it because I'm off the market nowadays. Yeah, but I think nowadays it's quite easier. It's easier to meet. It's easier to meet people. But during our time, it wasn't that easy. In our time, we even had arranged marriages where your aunt or your uncle could say that, I've seen a beautiful lady somewhere and I need you to go and meet her, and they could just arrange, and then marriage would be able to take place. But looking at it in retrospect, if I look at those days and today, I think today there's a lot more pressure on the young people. Poverty is like almost like a disability. Guys have to work really, really hard to be able to impress ladies. So the dating scene now is quite complicated, and I'm happy that I'm no longer in the market. I'm just watching from afar, but I'm worried for my kids. Yeah. I really hope that they're going to have a good time, to be able to get their spouses.
All right, thank you for your answer. I will invite Wamboi in a minute to just add her voice here. But Silas, I think I need you to help us set, because you're a man about town and you write about this thing quite a bit. What are the challenges that young men are facing, or men are facing generally, in the dating scene now?
Nowadays, people are into short-term relationships.
Okay.
Like in the past, like when we were in college, maybe more than 10 years ago, you could see people even date for up to a year, even more than a year. But nowadays, it's just short-term situationships. Okay. Meet someone today, tomorrow they're with someone different. Yeah. Another thing is that now both genders, because of social media, they have options. Your girlfriend has options, you also have options. And I think people now are open to exploring. So I'm not noticing very many exclusive relationships, like monogamous exclusive relationships. But also, we live in Nairobi, and sometimes you assume that Nairobi represents Kenya. Yeah. But it's different in other parts of the country. It's different with the different demographics. Yeah. And also people, for example, are taking longer to get married. Like more than a decade ago, by the time you're 20, 25, 26, out of college, you marry. But nowadays, someone can finish college and you go almost up to 10 years before you get married. Kitambo bana ndio upate msichana, you really have to work hard for it. Yeah.
Wamboi.
There is a lot of this thing that we keep saying, and I love to tell men, let's not idealize how relationships were in the past. Because we sit down with our grandmothers. We have this idealization just because you had a story or sensationalism of like, it used to be easy. It was not easy. Let me tell you, there is nothing easy about going to a well. You're just going to fetch water. You're thinking that I'm going back to my mom and my dad, and then you are stolen, you go. It used to be stories of, I was removed from Masai land, I am in Kikuyu land, I don't know how to go back home. I don't have a matatu, sijui what forest I will transverse. Right now that we have choices that we can make, that there is progress, let's not look at it like it is retrogressive, that women are allowed to actually make these decisions for themselves. And look, it is in human nature to want those things. I'll go to Tinder, I will find a person, or TikTok, I'll find a person like Matara. And then Matara will come here and cosplay goodness. So you see, he cosplays goodness, and then stories come out of a woman who's murdered by this particular person who had a very specific cycle of abuse with 1, 2, 3, 4 people who reported, and it was not followed through. So sometimes when you see people not responding to your goodness in that way, it's not because that they are projecting their traumas from elsewhere. Maybe it is. But possibly it is also the trauma that women are going through, a grief trauma.
There seems to be a lot of friction between these two genders, especially it's been heightened by the media. Do you feel it, and how has that changed the dating pool for?
Did you just hear what she said? Of course we feel it.
Okay. Yeah.
We are not in a space where people like to respect each other's opinions. We're in a place where I am either right or I'm right. Okay. We don't believe that both of us could be right from a different perspective.
Both of us could be wrong.
Or both of us could be wrong from different perspectives.
Yeah.
We expect, no, my point is the one that's most important. Yeah. That, of course, when you come into a dating scene, changes everything. Because it means even if I take you to my place where I live, if from your worldview where I live is not right or is not wrong, then it changes how we look. Even when he was giving the example of even money, we have a worldview of how men and women should handle money. So a man is supposed, like you were saying, is a provider. He's supposed to do all these things. So people, and I've always said this before, personally, I don't believe a boyfriend should be providing husband privileges. Okay. That's one of my personal views. I think you should pay for the dates, yes. Yeah. But I don't think you should be paying for rent. You should be buying people clothes, buying them cars and all these things. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah. That's my personal opinion. Yeah. But it could be different for another man. Yeah. So all these things come into different place. So you find a guy like me, if I am dating, will find himself looking for a woman who is expecting you to pay her rent, pay her this, pay her that. Already this is a disparaging opinion. This is already something on left and on left. People don't know how to agree to disagree. So it's when a man says, okay, I respect that, and it's okay. Maybe go find somebody who will give you that. I am not willing to. You are looked at, uyo chali ni stingy, uyo chali simpoa, and then before you know it, it turns into this whole other thing. Agreeing to disagree is not a commonality that we have, which I hope we can get to. We can mature enough to be able to, because I believe even in marriage, there are points where you agree to disagree. So even when people are talking about, I like a tall, dark, and handsome man, bona, my light skin wako wapi? You get, it always has to be, because we are bringing our preferences are becoming a world preference. We are not accepting the fact that this lady could like a tall, dark-skinned man. This man could like a voluptuous woman. This other one likes them tiny. It's okay. But we want, my view has to be your view. My preference has to be your. So we've been heightened. So it's to the point we can't see anything else than my preference must be everyone's preference.
Okay. Before I come to Sir Juma, Silas, do you feel this tension, and how is it affecting the dating pool?
I've been right at the center of it.
Okay, tell us more.
And we've been labeled all these terms that women drop on us. But you know, these gender wars, they started in the 2010s. They are there, but not as heightened. And do you know why we got here? So when the previous government took over, the rates of unemployment went down. When they went
went up or went down?
Went down, unemployment, or rather up.
Up, yes.
So starting from 2013, more than half of the graduates from universities
are not employed.
Are either unemployed or underemployed.
Underemployed,
So what happens is that when men don't have an income, they become invisible to women. So, and women start to get frustrated because traditional men have always played that role of provision, and women still expect men to do that. But now, you are there, you are a woman, you have a job, but there are not enough men to date. So you realize that in the 2010s, like feminists, especially online, they went like overboard, like, you know, in trashing men, doing all those sorts of things, but they are just frustrated, you know. And men, on the other hand, are also frustrated, like, you know, you want to date, you want to marry, but you don't have the resources because marriage has a lot of material responsibilities, especially on men. Women, on the other hand, like when I was reading actually this on the Yahoo Finance, it's a report on America. When women are rich and successful, they don't want marriage. They don't want to be tied down, you know, like those, the legal problems of marriage. They don't want that. They can date, they can have long-term relationships, but they don't want like to tie their wealth, you know, the way marriage, like the wealth, the way the ownership and all that. So the wars basically, they stem from that frustration, and now people project. In fact, someone did a very funny report on Twitter. He realized like the shaming of men, especially poverty shaming of men, happens between 25th of a month and 5th of the next month. And what's happening around that time? Bills. Some rents, electricity, and all that. So that's the time, like, and actually you can go to Twitter and just hashtag rent due. And then you can see any other time a woman is trying to insult a man is around that time. And it's that frustration because they expect someone to provide, but now there's no one who's providing. So it's almost scientific, and you know, and whoever did that should actually be given a Nobel Prize for economics. So the wars actually, it's the economics. It's not like women are wrong or men are wrong or anything. It's the economy doing that. And you realize like societies where there's equality, men and women are earning, like you know, the Scandinavian countries, you don't get to see the Jordan Petersons or the Andrew Tates from those societies because people now live normally, everyone can provide for themselves, you know, the stability and all that. But societies where there's the income inequality, and men are disadvantaged, you'll tend to see those kind of problems. So it's purely an economic issue.
A round of applause, kidogo, as we come to Mr. Juma. Juma, during your time, and I'm not thinking that you lived such a long time ago. Were there subtle ways that this gender friction was felt? And did you feel that there was a pressure to provide? And you felt like, wow, if I don't, then I'm not a man or something like that?
Yeah, usually, I mean, naturally, traditionally, and the reason why the man was made stronger, the reason why you don't have soft bodies like women is because you were created to provide for the woman. God created men to go out and hunt and till the land to be able to provide for the woman. So traditionally, that is how men, how we have been brought up. And of course, that has been able to control how we think and even how we grow up during the time that we were dating. Okay. But one of the things, and I think I've mentioned it earlier on, that I think dating is okay, but dating too much, like my advice to young people is don't date for a long time. Once you are reached that situation whereby you are in the dating scene, you are on market, as they say, my advice is usually make a decision and stay together or get married. Get married. So I'm a proponent of young people getting married quickly so that you don't spend that money paying her rent, buying for her the car, paying her school fees, and yet you're not her husband. You get my point? So young men are losing a lot of money and time.
Yeah.
You understand? Investing in someone, maybe for a period of maybe 5 years, they're going to date for 5 years, and then they break up, and then she goes to the next woman, invest again. If you spend that, to take that money and invest it into shares or something, I mean, it will help your life.
Yeah.
So I usually ask young men, and even when you're graduate, even before you get a job, by the way, instead of engaging in those relationships and wasting each other's time, and especially for the women are the main losers here. The men can play around and go, right? But the woman, the risk of getting pregnant and having that baby that doesn't have a father, right? And even diseases and all, those risks are high. But the man can afford to, from a dating, jump onto the next woman. And it's like going to a market. It's really, when you go to the market and you're buying avocados, have you bought avocados? You go there and you touch this, you leave, touch this, you leave. So people are coming, every customer is coming and touching it. And by the time someone wants to buy this avocado, it may finywa. You know my point? So it is not good. So I usually advise young people, and this is something, my own kids, I'll advise them. Even before you are 20, get married. If you can get married, you have identified a boyfriend, get married. I'll even pay for your dowry and sustain you. But the good thing with this, watu wanasemanga ati sina job, sina job. Lakini kama uko na huo msichana, anakupatia hiyo motivation ya kwenda kutafuta kazi, kutafuta, hata kwa mjengo unaweza enda kwa mjengo juu kuna mwanamke kwa nyumba. Lakini kama wewe uko tu alone, you are alone, there's no mouth to feed. And that's why people are not even getting jobs, because getting a job is pushing yourself. You push yourself, and there's no better person who can push you as a woman to go out there kutafuta kazi. So
Okay.
that is why.
Catherine?
Yeah, I had to come in here because, So, where do I start?
Okay.
So, Daniel,
Yes.
so you make it sound like the availability of good, wholesome men
Yes.
is what we are surrounded with. So, nimalize shule at 20, I get married to the first boyfriend that my heart wants. Yet, that's not the reality.
Yeah.
You get. So we can't say, get married between 20 and 30. Just get married. So, sorry, are you married?
I'm in a committed
you're in a committed relationship. He had to put that there because she'll be watching. But my point is, let's also be realistic in the sense of, and I don't know what Wamboi will say to this, in the sense of, if the men are there, there's no sane woman anywhere who will not want to be in a good relationship with a wholesome human being. But the thing is, like he said, we all look to what's happening around. Yet, relationships are very personal. It's an individual thing. I don't care what they're saying on Twitter or in the office, or if I'm a member of a club, or people like sharing their experiences about women or men. What I care about is the man I have in my life and the things we want to do, or how we want to live our lives, as opposed to generalizing that men should, women should. I don't know. That's just me speaking as a woman.
All right.
I don't know what my fellow sister.
One thing I'm getting from the points that the men are raising is that as a society, we have become a people who rely heavily on what is being said online, as opposed to sitting down and building communities and doing the thing that I say, consolidating of powers, so that we can understand where the problem is. As Silas was saying, that the poverty rates went high with the last government, but anyway, didn't only happen in Kenya alone. It is a capitalistic system, and while inflation happens with superpowers, it will happen in this country, inevitably. And the people who are the most oppressed, which is again possibly a black woman who's disabled somewhere in Mandera who is not here in this room with us, is feeling the brunt of it more than I am right now. I can sit here and say, hata nikimaliza hapa, hata nikichukua mat, I'll go home. Nobody will force me to do anything. Look, capitalism tells us that we have to look at each other as property. Probably a man will look at me as property. I will go and acquire you, and now you have to be under my power, my supervision, my leadership, subjugation forever. As a woman, capitalism tells me, oh my God, an easy way out. And then you guys meet. If I'm to tie it to his point, you meet. It is ultimately what he's saying. We are 20, let's meet, get married easily, blah, blah. You do not fundamentally even ask each other, what are your politics? What are things that you stand for? What is your culture? If you take those things seriously, what do you believe in? You see, like, instead of talking to each other, we want to pick things from online and say, A, B, C, D, let's do this. And
I'd like to hear a couple of questions. So you can raise your hand, tell us your name, and then make your question a bit specific. You can choose panelists you want to send that question to. Yeah.
Nataka kujoiza man. Kuna kitu yenye umesema ambapo umesema like hakuna vile amesema 25% kuna wanaume tu wako tu, unaona? But pia mimi nakubali, lakini unaona ukipata utapata solo ulikuwa unataka. Yaani ametumiwa tu saa hako tu. Unaona? Huo ndio unaweza pata.
Okay.
And when it comes to dating, inategemea mbona una date. Because unapata ndio udema anataka do, si ndio? Utaka mtu nitakupea do. Hata mimi nataka mapenzi yako. Nikishapata si tunamalizana hivyo. So kwanza tunafaa tujue mbona tunapenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Chito, I need you to mark that transactional, how it's become very transactional. Just another question here. All right. Yeah, all right. Okay.
So for mine is a point in terms of the current dating scene and in terms of how young men do not take up the responsibility, and then they don't have the time to build on the foundations of every relationship. It's all about, because of the current issues of social media coming up, people do not have the one-on-one conversation when they have issues going on. That people don't build that aspect of knowing each other. It's all about transaction. And then another thing is all about people meeting but not understanding what are the visions they have for Moja. Because if they don't have a purpose, then that the relationship that they have will not go far. So I think in terms of dating and having a relationship with someone, get to understand what is the purpose, what's the end goal. So if the end goal is to build something together, then that is what will make it work. And I think most of young men don't have conversation with their fathers or their parents get to understand how do they make it. So mostly men are left out in that conversation of relationship with their parents, so they don't get to understand if they are in a dating scene what they need to look into. And you find most of the time men are not given that opportunity to be heard or to be seen or to have a very candid conversation about relationship.
All right. Juma, Makofi, I need to note that because there seems to be a sort of a breakdown of how we, mentor men, and I think that's something that I'd like to talk about. Any other question? Oh, all right.
So mine is like a comment, or rather just a suggestion. To me, I think it's high time now we stop the blame game. I think they are narcissistic women, they are narcissistic men. That's what we need to understand, first of all. Then we get the point, like we need, at before wisdom, we need emotional intelligence to be able to get things as the way they are, for us not to every time blame one another.
Okay.
And then I as we say that is unlike Paul's attract or what, in dating, you attract what you are. I'm not married, I'm not dating, I need to be dating, Cindy. But now if you sit down and start thinking hard, you also at a fault. There are character traits you show which maybe are not good to the other gender. So the only thing is what you are. If you are aggressive, you also attract an aggressive person. I would sitaki ku-standardize niseme ni hivyo, but basically unapatanga what you are is what you attract. So maybe we need emotional intelligence and maybe work on that. That's my point. Yeah.
Makofi, so we start with Silas. There was a question for you from the gentleman there.
A man is someone who takes up responsibility, someone who has a purpose in life and ruthlessly goes after it. And a man is someone who takes care of his family, is responsible. I think that's how I'll define like a man. Like you have to be in charge of your destiny.
And it's not a biological thing. Okay.
Of course, obviously, beyond being biological, like
Technicalities.
yeah, beyond the technicalities, like vile alisema, kuna wasenye tu wako tu, no vision, ana kitu ako tu, So
I've asked you that question intentionally because sometimes I feel like men are the only people who need to be qualified to be considered something. That you must be. I mean, the man can't just exist and be a man. There must be something you're doing to make you a man.
Women are born with value.
Okay.
For men, you have to work on your value.
All right, Chito?
I think over time, what has happened is that we as men, I think as men kept on moving on, you would find that if you hit on a chick with your words, sometimes she agreed, sometimes she didn't. So what did we start doing? We started buying things, giving them things. Different generations coming up, maybe from our parents' generation, their parents. Mothers raised daughters and told them, you want a man, get a man who can give you things. Which was a reality because also of the situations. They couldn't get inheritance because of societal values and things like that at that time. So now you have a generation of women who can get what they want, but because you came from a place where your mother didn't have and she told you go and get. So that's the value you are placing on if a man has to date me, some, not all. If a man has to date me, bring money. But then also, as men, instead of us beginning to have conversation, we throw things at. So to show that you love a chick, you buy a phone. Then you go and buy a necklace, a house, to show her that I love you. So we've attached love to things, as opposed to it being a holistic, is how I would.
Yeah, all right. Makofi, Juma.
It all begins and falls in upbringing, how you bring up your children and how you socialize them. And personally, the way I'm raising my daughter, I always try and tell her, work hard, get a job, and do not depend on what you get from a man. So I always tell my daughter that the moment you get that job and you have everything that you need, you can get anything that you want. And this applies to all women. Always my advice to women is that once you have once you're in control of your economic empowerment, then you have that power to say yes, to say no, and even to make a choice. If you even want, you say tall, dark, and handsome, whatever, you can do that. So I think one of the most important advice I would give to any woman is if you can be able to work hard, especially nowadays. You know, a long time ago, it was different because one of the things that maybe you read across the bridge, right? If you read across the bridge, about a woman who was born in a poor family, getting married in a rich family. So she crosses the bridge, so she becomes wealthy. But nowadays, it's different. But it also happens these days, where you see maybe it's a woman who lives in Madari slums, and I think there's a pastor who was always advising girls, if you're born in the East Land, you hang out in the other areas, Lavington, ama you go and hang, unanunua kasoda na unakaa nayo, maybe hapo Intercon, so you can meet, ama uende Muthaiga Golf Club. That's where you meet people networking, because where you hang out is where if you hang out in places where, the pool is basically economically poor, that's what you get. So it also helps a lot, if you are able to move from here and hang out in the places where the people are, then you are able to cross that bridge. But the best bet for our girls is watch out, work on your own economic empowerment, get that money of yours, and you can be in control of your own destiny. And I always advise, my advice to my daughter will always be that dating should lead to marriage. Any dating that doesn't lead to marriage, honestly, is time wasting.
Yes.
Time wasting. And this is what I want to tell my daughter. And and most girls will agree with me when I say that it is the girls who bear the brunt of break, and he said it very, very well. It's because from our culture, our society shames. For example, if you are married and you are left, maybe getting a new husband, they're going to ask, what happened before and stuff. So our society, we are socialized that way. So if it's better for you if you can meet your man and grow together, get married, raise your kids. I always say, get married, have kids when you are in your 20s. My mother gave birth to me when she was 20 years. When you give birth when you are young, chances of you giving birth to children that has congenital problems are very, very low. It's lower than when you have maybe in your 40s, 30s, or 50s giving birth. Then chances are, go to any hospital, they'll tell you. Talk to any gynecologist, they'll tell you. And so they advise everyone, not just women, everyone, get married, have kids when you're young, grow with your kids, play with them. Even they'll get jobs when you're still young. They'll send you pocket money. They'll buy you that, that car that you want. So for me, I always see it's really, really young. It's advantageous if we do all these things because you're going to do them anyway. And talk to any aunt of yours in the village. Maybe, any aunt, ask her. When you meet them, what do they ask you when you're finished school? Yeah, when are you bringing someone? Okay. When are you bringing someone home? So eventually, we are all going to get married. So the sooner we do it, the better. Why can't we do it so they get on with it?
What I like about what your story is that people come with their perspectives and their experiences, and because it's individual, it's very valid, even though we might have different ones. Yeah, Omboy.
I'm realizing that we really have our work cut out for us. We really have a lot of work to do because it turns out we do not speak to each other a lot. We just consume things and we run with them without introspecting, without sitting down and maybe having a discussion with possibly the way we are having with Agna Silas and this panel discussion that we're having. Because as I sit here, I'm realizing some of the narratives that we are consuming here or we are regurgitating here are narratives that by now we should have stopped doing. First of all, like saying things like, ametumiwa. That's one thing. Secondly, I think it is also, marriage is a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. Companionship is beautiful. Love is beautiful. But to tell people that this is a goal, ultimately, that if you do not achieve this, inasambaratika ama whatever. No, like it's a good thing, and I want everybody to meet their person. Maybe kwanza personally, I'm such a hopeless romantic. I love love. I love to, go to places. Nini. But I know ultimately, marriage is not a goal. Like it is not at now here. Good. Ndio hii, congratulations. This is the first thing that you are usually like qualified first, and then you're told go and learn. And then you go and learn, and then you learn hard things, So some people who decide not to go that route, or they are dating and they decide that, this is probably not my person, let me try another person. Maybe what we should advise people is not ultimately let us date to marry. It is date to find your companion. And when you're in the courtship period, make sane decisions. Look at your SRA, child rights. Look at your bodily autonomy. Look, center yourself. What are my goals? Am I like building on myself? Am I empowering my partner? Am I doing what? Are we going somewhere? Because to say that let us just date to marry, na hamujui mna marry for what reason?
A round of applause for Juma. You have a rejoinder?
That, listen to me as your big uncle telling you. That is a woke culture, woke ideas.
It's not woke.
And I can tell you for free, what I'm telling you today, if we do not embrace marriage and family, this world will be extinct. You understand? so it's even scientific. It's scientific.
Yeah.
It's very scientific. It's not something traditional. What? It's scientific. Go and ask your mom at home. Go and ask your uncle. They'll tell you what I'm telling you.
And yet, when we ask our mothers and our grandmothers, because we sit down with them, they tell us, as you said, a culture of shame, a culture of silencing, a culture of hiding things. Right now, they're the ones who are telling us, go and push for yourself. People like Akina Wangari Maathai, they were fighting not because they had power behind them. And they are the people who went before us. It is all these, powerful women, Akina Mother Karuas, Akina who, Akina, the women in powerful spaces. And I am not in the business of doing gender wars. I actually really do not like those things. I don't. Because we sit down and we think that it's a versus thing. I keep telling Danish and I keep reminding him that our problem is usually the system. Because the way the system is set up, it is a woman who's told that you're the one who is supposed to ultimately want to get married, and then you go and be under somebody, and then stay home, do care work, do whatever, not want more for yourself. But we want more for ourselves because the world is changing. We can't remain behind.
I don't think relationships should be, if you don't do, I will do, if you do, I will do.
Na ile issue nimesikia ati kama una job unaweza oa. How? Unajua hiyo ni risk, unataka ni risk.
There are women who marry men as a ladder. It's just a stepping stone.
We look at each other as transactional things.
I am pro-marriage, but there are people also who have had it real good without signing it.
Why do we react differently when a lady says no than when another man says no?
When another man says no, you can face resistance.
The world wishes to engage with you as adult. The reason you are not called children today is